This is a very real glimmer of hope. But before we get to this, let me take you back exactly 6 months ago. My world, your world, everyone's world, frankly, fell apart.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
Now, I'm not in the hospitality industry and I don't work in a theatre, for example, but my sector collapsed just as certainly. My work fell off a cliff. I'm a business school professor. I'm the best-selling author of The 7 Failings of Really Useless Leaders. So I teach all over the world, from Houston to Hong Kong, from Dubai to Delhi. That all stopped. No travel, no meetings in hotels or company universities. But then the events industry shifted online. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, the technology was welcomed and adopted faster than Lewis Hamilton leaving the pit stop. But here's the thing. Virtual events are not the same as live in-person events. Conferences, seminars, exhibitions, executive education can't be simply ported online. Now here's the very real glimmer of hope. Last week, I interviewed David Meerman Scott. He's the best-selling author of Fanocracy, How to Turn Fans into Customers and Customers into Fans, and the classic New Rules of Marketing and PR. And this week, he's released a life-saving manual. You might call it the missing manual for speaking and running virtual events. It's called Standout Virtual Events, How to Create an Experience that Your Audience Will Love. Now, it's co-written with Michelle Manafi. She's an events organizer that he's known for about 15 years or so, if I remember rightly. So this book is quite brilliant for speakers at virtual events and for event organizers. Now, let me just repeat that because it might mislead you. It's principally aimed, this book, at people like me. Speakers engaged in online conferences, seminars, workshops, and for the organisers of those events. But don't miss this. But, it will also be so valuable for the organisers of everyday meetings if you like. I urge you to get hold of a copy. I got mine initially on Kindle, but I couldn't mark it up in the way I wanted. It's just arrived today, and look what I have done with it. Now, there's a whole other story about how fast this came about. It's available through print on demand, through Amazon, and they did it start to finish in just a few months, weeks really. If you're interested in writing a book fast, this is a great case study. Now, I'll talk about that another time. David has been in the same boat as me with his work falling off a cliff. And early in the book, he describes how he felt about it. Let me read it to you. David found himself in a bit of a daze when the in-person events industry vanished. For more than a decade, he'd been used to delivering 30 or 40 presentations a year all over the world, racking up hundreds of thousands of air miles, tell me about it, as he shared ideas about how organizations of all kinds create marketing strategies that turn customers into fans. When that disappears overnight, you are in trouble. But he put himself to studying this. He created a mini studio at home to make much more professional virtual broadcasts. And he's put a video of that on Vimeo. I'll put a link in the description, but take a quick look at this now, how he started working on creating virtual events.
If you're planning a virtual event, it's really important to work with your speakers to make sure that their setup is as good as it possibly can be. I like my little home studio, especially because I've got my slides over my shoulder here, as opposed to what so many of the platforms' defaults are, which is the really big slides and the little tiny thumbnail of the speakers. While my studio may be a little bit bigger than most people need, it's really important to make sure that your speakers look as good as they possibly can. I recently presented where a really well-known keynote speaker was presenting in portrait mode on their smartphone, looking up their nose with a whole bunch of lights in the background. It was terrible. When your speakers look great, it makes your event come alive. While everybody doesn't need to have a studio in their home, some good equipment can help a lot. So I use a camera that's slightly above my eye level. I have a decent light, and I have a fabulous microphone. Simple stuff, a couple of $100, and you're good to go.
I'll leave a link to the video in the description if you're interested to see the rest, and you should. This book is more than just a pragmatic reminder to look at the camera and not just yourself on screen. It's more than a reminder to get your laptop up to eye level and not peering up your nose. It's more than a suggestion to get and use a good quality video camera. It forces you to rethink, why are you holding this meeting in the first place? What value are you creating for the audience? What do they want? I mean, these are great questions, which it's well worth thinking through from first principles. It's critical also to reimagine your presentation itself, says Scott. How is it best structured? Short, bite-sized chunks, by the way. Change of pace, break the fourth wall, Deadpool style. Guest speakers, surprise guest speakers being the best. Here's Joseph Jaffe introducing one of the speakers on his Corona TV podcast.
You're actually an identical twin. Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be an identical twin.
No, you didn't.
Surprise!
I wish I had been live on that interview. It looks hilarious. Standout Virtual Events has a very pragmatic table of contents that will allow you to dip in and out to key points. But if you did dip in and out, you'd be missing the chance to revisit things you've probably forgotten. We've already talked about purpose, but there's a great section also on costs and on how speakers can partner with event producers to help promote these events. And a reminder that preparing for virtual events takes just as much forethought as preparing for in-person events. I've seen a trend for companies to want to pay less for speakers because it's virtual. That has to stop. Here's a Facebook message I spotted from Stefan Heitfors. My fee for short virtual speeches is the same as for the good old 1 hour live keynotes. Some say that's too expensive, so I added this Mark Twain quote as my new email signature. If you want me to give you a 2-hour presentation, I'm ready today. If you want only a 5-minute speech, it'll take me 2 weeks to prepare. So let's wrap up. David and Michelle do a great job in sharing the idea that virtual events are much more like television than a theatrical performance, but also that there are some significant and perhaps unexpected benefits of going virtual for event organizers. You can reach a massive global audience, for example. Vern Harnish, the founder of Entrepreneurs Organization, got tens of thousands of people on one of his multi-speaker lineups for scaling up. They charged entry and made almost as much revenue as a live event while boosting his client list dramatically. There are some other great case studies in the book where both David and Michelle have been involved. You're going to learn such a lot from this. I'm not going to tell you any more. I could go on. I'm really excited about this book, but you're going to get so much more if you get hold of the book yourself. Standout Virtual Events, it's on Kindle, Amazon Print on Demand. Personal tip there, by the way, get the print copy. You will scroll all over this and post it to death. Standout Virtual Events is the missing manual for speakers and event organizers, and frankly should be given away with every license to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, or whatever your virtual platform of choice happens to be. There's one thing you don't have a choice over. If your livelihood depends on sharing your knowledge or building connections with an audience of any kind, there is no question. You must buy this book. Clear enough call to action for you?